All right. And all right, what is going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Unmute Yourself. How y'all doing today, Saints, Aints, and if your forehead look like Tyra Banks, how y'all doing? Okay. I pray everybody is doing well. Listen, I am so excited about this episode, you guys. This episode is about to be lit. Make sure you share and comment. I have the beautiful Kayla in the building. I have the lovely Miss Victoria in the building. I have the GOAT, the doc, uh, Charity in the building. And I have my beautiful, lovely sister, okay, that is in the building to share, okay? And I love you guys so much. And we're about to have a good time. So, for our first question of the day, you guys, you already know how we do it. It's called the Zumba round. I didn't even asked this question, but Kayla, I'm gonna start with you, sis. I'm gonna start with you. Um, what does it mean to be a black woman?
No pressure having me start first. But I love talking about this particular subject. I think we mentioned this in the last episode that you invited me to when we spoke about colorism and how it can feel with even within the Black community that we're challenging each other's Blackness often. And what I was saying there is the same thing I'd say here today. Whatever I am, if I'm Black, that's what it means to be Black, because that's me living in my skin. I don't think that what connects us and makes us the Black community is how we act. I think it's our world experience. And unfortunately, often that shared experience is trauma or being on the receiving end of microaggression. But what connects us other than the good things about our culture, like the cookout jokes and things like that? Yes, there are positive things that connect us in terms of behavior, but that's not really what makes us Black. What makes us Black is the experience. So whatever I'm doing in my skin is Black because I'm Black while I'm doing it. And I'm not trying to say that in a shady way, but yeah, in my opinion.
No, that's good. Starting us off strong. Miss Victoria, how same question. What does it mean to be a black woman?
I love that, Kayla. I mean, she slam dunked that. Um, I think what it means to be a Black woman is to be multifaceted, to be resilient, um, to be powerful, to be a nurturer, to be oppressed, to be all the things, really. It's so many different layers to being a Black woman. And like Kayla said, it is when I am doing whatever I am doing, I am being a Black woman. When I am taking care of my daughter, and when I'm trying to be a good wife, and when I'm trying to uplift another sister, and when I'm trying to make sure that Black men know that they are important and needed, I am being a Black woman. So being a Black woman is being all the things, because I believe that Black women are all the things. We do all the things, and we do them well. So
Yeah, preach, queen. Sis T, tell me, sis, what does it mean to be a black woman?
Well, hi y'all. First of all, so for me, I read a book some years ago, and it was by a lady named Jill Nelson. And she described the black woman in a book. It's an excellent book. I recommend all black women read it. It's called Straight No Chaser. And she calls the black woman the twofer. And I was like, a twofer? But when you think about it, we are. Although we are all the wonderful things because we, all life comes from us, that is proven. We are also a twofer because we are black and woman. And so that is two different things. You know what I mean? That within itself, there's a double oppression in that. We are doubly oppressed in that we face racism and patriarchy, right? So the twofer is what we are. Also, like Victoria said, we are resilient, we are powerful, we are creators of life, we are mothers, we are nurturers, but we are that twofer, and that is something that is inescapable, because like Kayla said, I'm black when I'm being black. You know what I'm saying? It just is what it is. So that twofer is who we are. You know what I mean?
No, that's good. Doc, sis, let the folks know, sis, what does it mean to be a black woman?
I think there's no way to top everything that has already been said. It all the answers have been extremely rich. If there is something that I could personally offer, it is that the black woman is the epitome of Ashe, right? So Ashe means the power to make things be. And sometimes that means out of the ashes, and sometimes that means from absolutely nothing. Sometimes that means in hard situations. Sometimes we create the best of the best situations. But I really do believe that, in essence, the black woman is the epitome of Ashe. In that, so much is that, we haven't even tapped into the maximum capacity of the black woman, even at this point, with the Black Woman SVP, and black women are running, multi-million-dollar companies. That is still very much the surface of the power and the potential of the black woman. So, I mean, everyone else went forth well, but the black woman is always someone who has the power to make things be.
I love that, sis. Make things be. Well, you guys, I hope y'all got the foundation of what a black woman is, because we about to see, while we just special people, yet it seemed like we get disregarded the most. And so, Kayla, to start you off, sis, what makes a black woman feel disregarded or like she doesn't matter?
I'm going to reference some of what, is it T that you go by? T, your sister at the bottom left.
Okay.
That's correct. Okay. Some of what she was getting at and saying black women live in two different intersections. We're not just experiencing oppression and pain that comes from being a woman, but also what comes from being black. And so sometimes if I'm on the receiving end of aggression, it can take a second to pinpoint why you're upset with me. Is it because I'm black, or is it because I'm a woman, or is it compounded? So some of the things that I think can make us feel, what was it, disregarded, the word that you used? Yeah. Some of the things I think that can make us feel disregarded is, we'll talk about our pain. And I guess this is kind of in relation even to like modern feminism and the way that it's talked about. We'll express our pain, and it falls on deaf ears because that's just black pain. That's just black experience. But other women of other cultures and colors can talk about the same pain, and then it's recognized and it's validated as this is a woman's experience and we need to do something about this. So I think it's interesting to live in two intersections, because anytime I express what I'm experiencing, anytime I'm pointing out something that's an oppression for me, it's often immediately disregarded as that's just a black thing, especially in the South where I live. I'm in North Carolina. So, yeah. And if y'all know anything about North Carolina, I do love my state, but it's an interesting place to be black. So anytime I'm, expressing something that's happening to me, it's often disregarded as that's just a black thing, rather than recognizing, no, this is something that could be an opportunity for us to recognize each other. This can be an opportunity for us to support each other. But it's often not validated until women of other cultures echo it.
That was good. Miss Victoria, can you piggyback off of that? What makes a Black woman feel disregarded or like she doesn't matter?
I love Kayla, and I'm upset I have to go behind Kayla. Um, but I think what makes a Black woman feel disregarded is not being seen, heard, or valued. And I know that is something for me, that when I walk into a room and I'm disregarded as being just present, like, hello, I am here. And then I'm disregarded with being heard. What I say, I have to taper sometimes because then I'm looked upon as being too assertive or too aggressive. And then when I shrink back, then it's like you're not taking initiative. And so I'm, constantly trying to figure out how to play between those two. And then not being valued. Only when it's an emergency. So a lot of times Black women are valued because we usually come to the rescue in a lot of situations. And so then it's like, Miss Hicks came and she saved the day today, but without that emergency, then it's like, no, we're not thought upon to have brought something to the table. And so that can feel very demeaning and disregarding. And to be frank, it pisses me off, to constantly have to feel like I'm okay, I'm worth it if I come and save the day. But when I told you all in a proactive manner, then it was looked upon as though, oh no, that will never happen. And so that becomes very frustrating and definitely feels like you're being disregarded.
No, that's totally understandable. You have every right to be pissed off, to be honest with you. T says anything you want to piggyback off of what they said, as well as add on to it, of what makes a Black woman feel disregarded or like she doesn't matter.
So my answer is twofold. Really quick though. First, I think that the idea when we talk about the strong Black woman, the independent Black woman, which I hate that whole persona, I hate that moniker, because what it indicates or it presupposes that the Black woman is incapable of feeling pain. She's incapable of being tired. She's incapable of being, at her wit's end. It just presupposes that we can take on the weight of the world and that it's okay. When you look back historically, Black women were experimented on. They did surgery and things on us with no anesthesia because they felt like we were incapable of feeling pain. So that kind of historical reference, even though it may not be at that extreme, that is still, that kind of trauma is still passed down. And so we are still looked at in that way, like we are incapable of feeling pain. And so my thing is lagging. Are y'all hearing me right? Or because it seems like it's lagging. Is it okay? Okay. So when we look at just how society views us, I think that oftentimes that can make us feel very disregarded. The fact that we are looked at as those who are incapable of experiencing anything um, painful or traumatic. We're just always, expected to push on, and then also too, this perspective I would like to offer. A lot of times we make ourselves disregarded because we do take on that moniker. We take on that role. We push past. We push on. We're tired. I was telling Charity the other day, my doctor called me and she told me that my hemoglobin was really low, whatever. And she asked me, she said, Miss Woods, are you tired? Are you, she was like, I don't even know how you are going on. And I told her, I said, yeah, but it's nothing normal. It's nothing out of the norm for me because in my mind, I feel like I'm supposed to be, I'm like, I'm a mom, I'm a student, I'm just in this groove and this hustle of life that has caused me to be tired. And I just don't think anything of it. Never realizing. And so we disregard our own selves. I disregarded my body telling me, hey, you're tired. I disregarded my body telling me, hey, something is wrong in here. You need some attention. Because in my mind, I've assumed the role, I've assumed that moniker that, okay, we can just keep pushing past everything, And so not only are we disregarded because we are expected to, we can sometimes disregard ourselves. What personally for me.
That's good, sis. Over here giving us history lessons, sis. Teacher. Okay, teacher. Um, Charity says, anything you want to piggyback off of what they were saying, because I feel like it's been so powerful thus far, but in different aspects, sis. So what makes a black woman feel disregarded or like she doesn't matter?
Um, Dr. Shaniqua Walker Barnes wrote a book called Too Heavy a Yoke. Um, and in the book, she talks about the yoke of the Black woman, right? She references what Tasha is talking about as far as the term strong Black woman and how we embody that in so many different ways. But in it, which is a perspective that hasn't been offered here because everyone else hit the nail on it. She talks about how some of the yoke of bondage, it's a play on words from a scriptural reference, yoke of bondage. Some of the yoke of bondage is from Black women, right? So you will see Black women pushing towards I have to work twice as hard to be just as good. So I'm not going to create further space for another Black woman to come in and do XYZ, right? So absolutely agree with everything that has been said and how we take on from an external perspective, and how the world really, really gives us a yoke of bondage. But the truth of the matter is, growing up, even when you're talking about, very adolescent thinking, girls will be in cliques based on color and size and gender. So I've always been the plus size baby girl, always. And so there were times where they would come to me for tutoring, or if they wanted help with their homework, or if they needed something from me, or I needed to be used. But if it was to, growing up, offer insight in professional situations or academic situations, or, even spiritually in the church. Now we all know the church has where Black women have resided in the Black church. That's a whole nother thing. But even in the church, you see women who, if they are in leadership positions, they almost suppress or oppress the other women. They don't want anybody else to have their job, their man, whatever the reasons are. And so I think in so many ways, even outside of what we deal with in society, like Tasha was talking about, that two-edged sword where you have Black and you have woman, you also deal with that same sense of attack from Black women. You know what I mean? And women do it, period. Definitely the white sis is going to come for the Black woman. She's not having it. But Black women, you will see it's not as overt, it's not as loud or as, potent, but subtly you'll see them snickering as a so-and-so sister comes by, or if someone needs to offer correction, letting that Black woman error instead of just pulling her to the side, or finding ways within your organization. If I am a Black CEO, I'm looking to fill positions with Black women. Yes, I absolutely am, because you know what? Even the Black CEOs, as far as, men are concerned, aren't even always creating the space for the Black woman. So, in my opinion, we are disregarded because in the community that should be used to help uplift one another, to help support one another, we don't always excel in that. And I think that that's one of our biggest issues. If Black women could actually come together, now you see it happening a little more now, but that's in the height of what's going on. We need to also be, paying attention to what happens when it dies down a little bit. But if Black women could get together on one accord, I mean, this world in general, in all facets, would be a very different place.
No, sis, that's really good. One of the things I want to talk about, in a sense, it was a post that was made, and I think like a Black girl, she was expressing how she feel about a situation in regards to, how something made her feel. And I had comment under one of the girls' posts or whatever, and I'm like, I understand. What was disappointing for me at the time when I was reading the comments, maybe one Black man said, like, okay, I hear this Black woman out, but the others was like, oh, she's tripping, or why she's thinking like this, or what, you know what I'm saying? And I commented, I said what's really disappointing is that nobody is taking the time to say, I hear you. You know, like everybody want to take the time out and say, "Oh, what about y'all and what you want to do?" And of course, we done had episodes about this, and we ain't gonna stop having them until something get better. But I felt like that was disappointing, and I want to go to the Malcolm X quote where he says, "The most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman, and the most neglected person in America is the Black woman." And so, Kayla, I come back to you, sis, and say, why does it seem like other races have the permission to be vulnerable, except for Black women?
Yeah, so that's historical. Of course, we know, and this is again no shade to, as Charity referred to them, the white cis. We know that they are the most beloved, most protected entity in America. That's just the case. That's historical. That's on the back of white supremacy. We understand that. And we also know that Black women from Jump Street were seen as breeders. We were seen as bodies. We were seen as even not even human. And if we think back to, Black men used to be considered, what was it, 3/4 of a man? Black women weren't even people yet, even when they were considered 3/4 of a man. So it's historic for us to just not be, allowed to be human, because people have always struggled to see us as a human. And I think the other piece is, even if we think in current day, in that sense of seeing Black women as bodies first, if we think about music culture, if we think about film, if we think about television, often Black women who attempt to be a voice and only a voice and not compromise to be a voice are not given platform. Whereas Black women who capitalize on sexuality, capitalize on an image, are given space. So it feeds into that standard. It perpetuates that standard that's how we need to be seen. That's how we need to be processed, is a body first rather than a human first. We have minds, and that's not negating other cultures. They got minds, they've got gifts, they've got all of this. But, yes, Black people have some very unique strengths, and we've got some very unique things that we offer. But it's just, the standard, and it's historic that we're not seen for that first. We're not seen for the giftings and the strength. We're seen for the labor, the body, the image, even the things that we can produce with the gifts, like fashion. And I love Charity's I love the scarf, I love the braids, but who ain't everybody else biting that now, right? We're seen for the things that we produce because of the giftings, rather than seen as a whole person.
Kayla, are you gonna write a book, sis? Huh? Are you writing a book? Because I need I need you to write a book, sis. Because this is you just articulating things. Candace Owens don't got nothing on you, sis. You hear me? Not a nothing.
You and your Candace issue.
Listen, Candace Owens got nothing on you. But Miss Victoria, same question. Why does it seem like other races have the permission to be vulnerable except for Black women?
Kayla said it best. Other women, especially white women, I'll start there, because white women have been able to, in America, be able to hide behind their white men. And they were protected by them. They were seen as porcelain dolls. They were seen as so precious little lambs. And again, the Black women were seen as bodies. And unfortunately, we have perpetuated that in our own community, where we have seen, working in the school system, seeing Black boys gravitate towards white girls, and seeing Black men say despicable things about Black women, but they will procreate with us. They will use us. They will talk about us, and they will put us in their music videos. But the white woman is still revered as being precious and what is that, non-aggressive and agreeable and compliant. And it has been something that I have been scratching my head and even spiritually asking God, why is that so? Because even spiritually, it can be a hard place to be in when you know God to be sovereign and know all things and he be mighty, but yet it be this playing field that we live in. And one thing I would say, and I'm going off, but this is just an immediate thought, is I have issue with Black women who raise Black men and not having these conversations. Because and not saying that all of them aren't, but there is a majority of them not having conversations with their Black boys and teaching them how to reverence the Black woman. It frustrates me to have to tell a middle schooler or a high schooler, like, you talking about your mom when you call her out her name. Your mama looks just like that. And they not even know to make the connection. And I remember my grandmother telling my uncles, like, oh no, you don't talk to a Black woman that way. And I think we've kind of gotten away from that. And I want us to get back to that, because who does my daughter date? Who does she marry? Um, it's frustrating. Who does my sisters date? Who do my sisters marry? So we have to get back to that. I know I went all around, but
No, that was good.
that's where my thinking is right now.
No, that was really, really good, because I want to add on to that eventually, because I feel like it's not a conversation that is had enough. And if when it is had, it's always going back to, but what do y'all do? And it's like, do you not see the essence of really of who we are? Not saying that somebody has to be perfect, but you can appreciate who the Black woman is in general. But T says, same question. Why does it seem like other races have the permission to be vulnerable except for Black women?
So Kayla and Victoria summed up everything that can be
Yeah.
said, especially as it pertains to Black women being vulnerable, more so in the context of white America or mainstream society. So I think I'm going to touch on within Black society, within our own people.
Mhm.
Because if we're honest, we're not allowed to be vulnerable with our own people as well. Um, and I think that it's because, for one, a lot of us don't have the time. We just don't have the time. We're doing all of the things, right? Like Victoria likes to say, she's like, we're doing all of the things. We don't have the time, right? We are so far behind. We are trying to make the male marker. We're trying to beat patriarchy. We're trying to make the race marker. We're trying to beat racism. And so we are two steps behind, right? And
Mhm.
so while we're trying to catch up just to catch up, we just don't have the time to do everything else. We don't have the time to be sweet. My mom, I remember my mom telling me, I'm not an affectionate person. And I remember asking my mother, because she was not affectionate with me, like, Mom, why, what is that? Why was that missing? And she told me, she was like, Tisha, I just didn't have the time. She was like, I didn't know, if I would have to raise you alone. You know what I'm saying? We are always considering what could be, what could go wrong. We're 10 steps ahead just to make it to where other people are. So we're thinking way ahead. So we're like, okay, I gotta raise my kids because it might just be us. I have to, this man that I'm with, he might, who knows what could happen. So I have to guard myself. You know what I'm saying? My friends, my homegirl, who knows? She might really want to be, who I am. She might really aspire to be, you know what I'm saying? She might be jealous. So we're always thinking about all of the things. And we just don't have the time to be vulnerable, even in our own community. We are so busy holding up every single cornerstone within our community, church, school. We are the ones that are there. Educators, for the most part, are women, Black women. In the Black church, you see Black women. We just don't have the time. You know what I mean? Like, when do we have the time to be like that? And for the ones of you that do have the time, God bless you. God bless and keep you. That is wonderful. But for some of us, a lot of us, even when it comes to our own community, we just don't have the time. We just don't.
Hmm. Yeah, Victoria, go ahead, Miss Victoria.
So this triggered a thought. So not only do we not have the time, we don't have the tools to even approach vulnerability, because vulnerability takes specific tools. And a lot of times we equate vulnerability with keeping it real. Venting, and that is not vulnerability all the time, because that can take you down a whole spiral, and the person that is receiving all your venting and all your whatever doesn't even know how to handle what you just gave them, and so it just feels like a dump, and then now that person is feeling what you just felt, and we just continue to pass it on. But the time piece, because I talk about this all the time, I'm not affectionate either. And sometimes when I need to be there for someone and they're trying to be vulnerable with me, that requires me to stop. That requires me to listen, be an active listener. That requires me to then empathize and show emotion, concern towards them. And that can take a lot out of you when you have, what Tasha says, all these other things to consider. And then in our community, last thing, we do not create safe spaces to be vulnerable. So we know two emotions. We either are extremely happy or we are angry. And you know what I'm saying? So when you're trying to be vulnerable and you go to anger, well, I'll never do that again. And if you're trying to be vulnerable and the person thinks it's time to go out, like, girl, whatever, let's go and get a drink. Because if we either do those two things, then you didn't hear me. So therefore, I'm not going to be vulnerable again. And so we just I'll just keep it to myself, and we self-medicate in the whole nine, and it just becomes toxic. So I love that.
Can
Dog.
I just say, I'm not.
Oh, go
one
ahead,
little,
T.
one little thing. We also equate vulnerability with weakness in our community. It is also heavily, and as much as we hate that strong Black woman moniker, we have taken that on, and so the weakness, we don't want to be seen as weak.
Jeez, y'all really going in on that. I didn't know the second question was going to spark all of this knowledge, huh? But sis, I mean, just to piggyback off of what they were saying, what do you have to say about it, sis?
I mean, everyone has hit the mark, so there isn't much for me to say. I will offer this. I think that there is, or there has been historically, contextually, emotionally, a lack of response. So even if we could adequately, appropriately communicate those things, even if we had the tools, even if we had the time, I think some of our voices being muffled and there being a lack of vulnerability is because we have to realize, or we've had to reason with, it still doesn't do anything. Right. So the Black woman can say in a delivery room, something is wrong. I don't want to push. Something is wrong. I need meds. And they will say, you're just in labor. Just push through. Just push through. And you see the mortality rate for Black women in delivery is sky high ride. Why? Because it's not that she isn't saying what needs to be said, but because even though she's saying that, no one is responding. And so I think that Black women end up building up this wall within themselves, even in the context of their community. You will hear Black women voice assault in the church, and they shut her down and say, hey, no, we're gonna deal with this in-house. We don't call the police. We don't, and they love to back it up with scripture. Or even within the familial setting, you will see secrets and traumas be swept under the rug, and the Black woman be told to be quiet. And so I think that while everyone else has, really brought forth real deal issues, for me, it's about safety, and I ended up being in this conversation recently where someone had offended me, and we discussed it. And then they were like, okay, well, let's fix this, right? And so I'm looking for the fixing, and they're very silent. Nothing is happening. So you know what ends up happening? I probably won't address it. Because for me, if I have brought something to you, if we have communicated, we have shared, we have acknowledged that we are leaving the table with nothing ill in our hearts, and then we still don't see a change, you know what I mean? It really leads the Black woman often to just be like, don't worry about it. I'll fix it. I'll do it. I'll handle it. You know what? I'll just do what I need to do to make sure that I survive. And I think that that has been the silhouette of the Black woman for centuries. Let's survive. What do I need to do to survive? What do I need to do to make it, even if it's from day to day? What do I need to do? You know what? I can't break down at these people's job because they might think I'm being too emotional and might not respect me. You know what? Maybe it won't be the best thing to offer my upsettedness about this, because then they're going to tell me I'm just the crazed Black woman. You know what I mean? So I think even in all of the things, I love that. Even in all of the things, I think that there has been a lack of safety. And that lack of safety has built a boundary around the Black woman that literally sustains the silhouette of survival. You know what? Don't worry about fixing. Don't worry about addressing. Let me just survive.
Well, since you kind of talked about it or touched on it in a way, and Kayla and you guys can really flow off of this, really, to really get into it deeply as you guys want to. Um, as you guys know, unmute yourself. We faith based, but we like to keep it real and relevant. Okay, not trying to be so heavenly that we can't, relate earthly. Okay. However, what needs to be said needs to be said, and what needs to be confronted needs to be confronted. And so Kayla, look, Charity kind of touched it, but I know she can go ham on it. But do you feel like the church and society has contributed to not allowing the Black woman or giving her that space to be vulnerable? Because we, a lot of times, as Charity articulated, was, listen, we've been like the pillar for like the Black church. We've been the rock for the Black church, if people really get it, So has the church contribute to that?
Yeah, I mean, America in large part was built on very much in a legalistic way, but it was built on principles of scripture. In a way that, again, it was not, they weren't followed in deed, but they were followed in word. So that idea that women are to be seen and not heard, that if we have questions, we need to ask our husbands. We don't need to teach. We don't need to be the one leading men. We don't need to be doing all these things. Technically scripture, but very inappropriately taught and very inappropriately administered in how we practice it. So yes, the church has contributed to it because of poor teaching, and silencing women in the way that we have been positioned within ministry. And also, church doesn't stay in church. Church was always meant to be community. Church was always meant to be pillar in community. So if these are the principles that we've established in-house within a ministry, that women are seen and not heard, women don't need to teach, you're pretty much saying women don't have anything valid to offer. If that's how we're positioning women within the ministry, then also that's how we're attempting to position them in community, in society. Now, women have railed against that. And now we can see a church where it's, again, out of balance, but to the other extreme where women are now doing it all within a ministry and men are not as present. And again, in society, and we talked about this in the other episode I was a part of, if anything happens in the Black community, if somebody is harmed, if you know, someone is killed, Black women are in the front. Black women are the ones leading the charge. So we've railed against those, you know, principles, those standards, status quo, but there's still not a balance within it. And now it went from us not being allowed to move to us being in constant motion. And I think even maybe a silent resistance from men within the ministry is letting us do it all because they're upset that it was railed against. And I think also, yes, you know, that whole idea of time, you know, at least anything that I've been taught and anything that I have experienced in terms of ministry is, you know, the crux of how you evangelize to people, the crux of how you teach is sharing your experiences and sharing the things that you've been through, that you've experienced healing from, that the Lord has brought you out of. That's how you lead when it comes to teaching and doing ministry. So if there's not if you don't feel like you have time to heal over a thing, then that also kind of silences you. That also kind of limits the way that you're able to share and navigate within ministry, because your testimony is limited in that way. You didn't have time to share a thing, take time to heal from a thing and say, hey, this is what I experienced and this is how I got over it. Yeah, so in many ways, in just the structure of how we position women in church, also, yes, time, giving people space to say that they're going through a thing, not judge them for it and give them space to heal and get delivered from it. Definitely, church has contributed to Black women not feeling like they can be vulnerable.
Man, so I think the quote right now was, you said we went from not being able to move and now we're in constant motion. That hit definitely a bar for the night, a whole bar. But Miss Victoria, same thing, and get as deep as you want. Unmute yourself about it. Do you feel like the church, you know, and society has contributed to not allowing the Black woman to be vulnerable?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the answer. Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that when we think about the Black church, we think about, for the first time in American history, Black men being in leadership roles. And with that came, well, now this is where I can shine and feel the most like a man in society. And so, unfortunately, egos do what egos do. And Black men felt as though, well, the best way to keep control, because whenever you are not used to a thing and you finally get a thing, most likely you want to maintain that thing, right? Especially if it's good to you. So leadership role is looking good on the Black man. And so therefore their ego said, I must stay in control. And so with that control, that means that somebody has to be oppressed. And unfortunately, it was Black women. And with that, Black women, for some of us, we settled into that and we said it was what it was. And so we walked and we took our hips to the kitchen and we made sure the men were fed and we made sure that Pasta looked good. And some other women, we would buck at the system in different ways. And unfortunately, I loved what Kayla said. The roles have reversed over the years. And there has been men rebelling and being reclusive because women have taken over. And unfortunately, we're out of balance. And because we are out of balance, women are fighting to be heard. Men are fighting to be heard and be in power. And so even if the woman is in leadership role, it feels a lot of times that men often like to put that woman in her place. And they do it in certain ways that really annoy me. You can preach on Sunday, and can be over the women's ministry, but you got to run everything by me. You can't buy a flower without it coming to me. And so we see a lot of this. And so we see women that are essentially in the last 5 years running Renegade. We're seeing women leave and start their own ministries. And I'm going to get in trouble for this, but that's where the term marketplace ministry came about. If you look at marketplace ministry, it is enthralled and consumed with Black gifted women who were left with no other choice but to leave the confines of the four walls of church because a man refused to let them express their gifts that God has given them. And so they have gone out and said, I am doing marketplace ministry. And that's where we are right now. So yes, the church has played a big role in keeping Black women silent and in a place of resistance and rebellion.
No, that is really good because I have a problem, but my sisters at the bottom, they can articulate it better than me because I'm telling you, I have a problem with that as well. Like, first of all, women are capable of doing God's work. God do not discriminate on who he can use. And so it's very annoying sometimes for somebody, for some men, because it's not all, but for some men within the church to feel so, just be so, like, just have so much ego where you are really bothered because a woman can preach the word better than you can, or that a woman can prophesize better than you can, or people are attracted to that woman's ministry more than you, and so therefore you try to shrink her to make yourself look bigger. I think it's very irritating, and I get upset when women allow that, so T says, anything you want to add to, do you feel like the church and society has contributed to not allowing the Black woman to be vulnerable?
Yeah. um, yeah. Um, Black women in church, from the beginning, we have been the workers of the church. Black men are on the forefront, and they get the praise, but we are the behind the scenes workers. And so once again, it reverts back to us not having the time or the capability to be vulnerable. We don't have time to do that. First of all, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear, well, I feel like I've been called. And let me say this, 99.99% of the time, they know before we even know that God has called us to ministry. Let's just be real frank about this. They know. So when you come to them with that, that is another reason, like Victoria said, why we shut down. Because like they say, okay, you feel like you've been called. Okay, so I'm gonna let you be over the children's ministry. You can be over the young adults. You can be over the youth. You can be over the women. That is where they like to put us. And so then, as she said, as it pertains to vulnerability, we shut down. Okay, I know I can tell this man that I've been called, or that I have a word. You know what I'm saying? But it's not going to be respected. And so, as Victoria said, that whole marketplace ministry, the Bible says that a prophet is not respected in his own town. So when we see that we're not getting that, the same respect, because we know that we've been called and they know that we've been called. And even though we have to run everything through them, when it comes to when they really need some context, or when they need some type of revelation, or when they need some type of work or some type of labor, they want to run everything through us. Well, what do you think about this? How can we do this? How can that be done? But then you don't want me to do it. You want me to give you my ideas. You want me to tell you how to do it. You want me to help you with the inspiration, but then I need to go back to my place. So when it comes to us being vulnerable, okay, no, I'm not going to be vulnerable. I'm not going to open up. I'm not, because it's not going to be respected. It's not going to be appreciated. So has the Black church played a role? Absolutely. 100%.
Listen, if you guys can, when you guys get a chance, last year, my two sisters at the bottom, T and Charity, we did one about women in the church. And so that one by itself will go so deep into that one. But Doc, please just, put your little extra sauce on it, sis, whatever, because they done took it home a little bit, sis. But about the church contributing, do you think, which I know you do, but but to talk about the church contributing to, Black women not feeling that they are able to be vulnerable.
Okay, let me preface, because anyone who knows me knows that I love the church, the Black church, but I am also she who is not afraid of critique of the Black church. That's just it, So Jessica, my friend, Dr. Price, is in the comments, and she basically went where I was headed, right? So I just released, this is crazy that we're talking about this right now, just released a podcast episode called I Met God, She's a Black Woman, right? And it's not solely about the theological stance of that statement, although that's a whole nother thing. But basically, I believe that a part of the issue is exactly where Jessica went, is that women have accepted it. Like, even in our empowered state that we are in now, where we realize we can start our own church, we can do our own thing. We don't have to go to the four walls ultimately. You still see so many Black women, and I'm going to be very specific, and I'm not going to name the denominations, but I was a part of a denomination for almost 10 years where you would see women not get church assignments, not, be allowed to preach in their ministry, but the women would stay. They would be frustrated about working, but they would stay and work. They would be frustrated about the inability to really rise and soar in ministry, but they would stay. And I think that a part of what progression would look like is the Black woman saying, that's it. I don't have to do this. I don't have to suffer. Okay. I don't have to suffer. I don't have to stick this out. I don't have to take, this patriarchy. In fact, the truth of the matter is, it is unfortunate that in the Black church, not only are they asking you to be silent, but they're asking to be abusive and you be silent. These Black pastors will literally abuse and misuse Black women in their ministry. And we aren't even talking physical, right? That's a whole nother shebang bang. We are emotionally, right? They will get in the board meeting with stewards and demean a Black woman, but then be in her bed, outside of that. So, I think that a part of it is going to be Black women rising up to say, I don't have to take this. Now, there was a time in history where maybe I really didn't have a choice, or I felt as if I had a choice. But today, in the year of our Lord 2021, that is not the case. You can go, sis. You can go. You can go, you can be, and you can thrive. And guess what? The Lord will still bless, right? So that's just my one take, because I saw Jessica's comment and I was headed there. But aside from that, two things that I have noticed is the egos of other women. Right. So most of us have talked about the egos of men and how the suppression of Black women has inflated the Black men. But for the few women that really are in power and in leadership roles, I have been in spaces, ministry spaces, where the woman in leadership role will say, I mean, you're anointed, but I don't want anybody to have the mic more than me. or I know that you are called. I know that you have great ideas. And I see that. And I can honor that. And you know what? I want to mentor you because I want my fingerprint to be on you because I know that you're great. But then when it comes down to allowing you to actually operate in your greatness, you see that manipulative, deceptive role come into play. And I think that Black women have to do better at saying, no, sis, we can go get it together. Hey, you want a tag team? You want to be like a Karen and Dorinda vibe, or whatever is the thing. Hey, we can tag team this sermon. You know what? I'm going to plan this ministry conference and it's going to be all Black women. You know what I mean? I think Black women have to do a better job at laying aside even their egos, because just like men, because it is so difficult for Black women to rise to those places of power in ministry, some women, when they get there, they don't know how to act. They act like, I have met celeb worship leaders who behind closed doors, they are nasty. They don't know how to speak to other Black women. They, you know what I mean, will literally disregard, like Victoria was saying, the reverence of the Black women. You don't even see in the church. You don't see male or female pastors really reiterating the reverence of the Black woman. And even if it's not being taught at home, little Black boys aren't coming to church either and learning how to talk to Black women. Little Black boys aren't coming to church either and learning the history of Black women. And so, I think that is a thing. My last point, and I promise I'm going to be quick because I know I've been ranting, is that I feel like men and women alike have failed to realize the power of us working together. I think that Black men, in their own cultural insecurity, they fail to realize that when the Black woman comes up, everybody comes up. When the Black woman comes up, we will take care of our people. There is still a sense of devotion to the Black man from the Black woman, the race of, the culture of the Black woman that is so undeserved, but we still do it because we love our Black men. If Black men would assume that same loyalty, that same devotion, and realize you don't have to suppress me, because if I come up, you're coming up too. If I come up, you're coming up too. And I was thinking about the PBS documentary, The Black Church. And for years, people have pedestal, and I'm not taking away from our beloved MLK, right? But people have pedestal the I have a dream, not realizing that the initial idea of that speech came from a Black woman. And at the time that the speech was delivered, Dr. King wasn't even going to say that speech. It took the Black woman, Mahalia, in the crowd to be like, tell them about the dream, King. Tell them about the dream. It was the motivation and the inspiration of the Black woman. Of Mahalia shouting through the crowd, Prathia Hall, she was already on revival. Prathia was already traveling with the dream. Prathia Hall was traveling with the dream. Dr. King came to one of the nights that she spoke and said, hey, I want to use that. But you see that even in today's church, that the Black men love to take the credit, but they fail to give credit where credit is due. And could you imagine, not to say that her life hasn't been blessed without that credit, but could you imagine if he would have brought her on publicly to that platform to say this dream was shared from this Black woman, where Black woman would be today, what that would have done for the Black race, for Black men, even of that time to this time, to see, hey, the church, the first ministers, biblically, contextually, they were women anyway. If we took the time to give the honor and the reverence that is due to the Black woman, I feel like this world would realize, specifically though, Black men would realize that there'll be another type of come up if you allow the Black woman to come up.
Doc. No, but Miss Victoria, you want to say something?
I want to go back to and I love what Charity said and what everyone said. I want to go back to what Charity said, because she brought up a good point about the egos of Black women in church. And that is something that that unfortunately has been like twofold for me. So you have the Black woman who has either created this personality and this persona of women need to be like me, right? And so it's another form of oppression where once the woman is the leader and she's the evangelist, then we create these mini evangelists that look like her. They all wear the, Chanel brooches and the Gucci belts, and they all do that. And so when another woman comes up and she's just as pretty and she's just as educated and she's just as whatever with her swag, then it automatically becomes this competition thing. And it is so frustrating when I don't want to compete with you. I really want to work together. I want to learn from you, and hopefully you can learn from me, and let us build. And so this is my second part. I think Black men in church then look at that and they pit the two against each other. And that can be also very problematic because a lot of times they romanticize one and romanticize the other, and it just becomes, I've seen it so many times. And I believe that is another way that the Black leader manipulates. And so they put one group of women against another group of women, or the two elders of the church, they pit them together, and it just repeats what we see in society. And so what frustrates me is, so we go back to that vulnerability piece. How am I as a Black woman to be vulnerable in what we say the church is a safe space? And I feel the same exact way that I feel when I go out into the world. Right. And so for a Black woman, we don't have the space. Like, I come to church and I'm laying my burdens down and I'm thinking the deacon is coming over to pray with me, and he's praying on me. And so now I have to hold my guard up. I got to make sure I wear my cami underneath. I'm going in a whole nother direction, but it adds to that vulnerability piece. Like, I'm sitting here like, so my question I wrote down was, so how do we as Black women find the place to be vulnerable? Because I think about Tasha and what her doctor told her, and I think about the millions of Black women that died too early from diseases and all these other things, because we just did not have that space to be vulnerable. And so it frustrates me, it upsets me, and it saddens me that the church has not gotten to a place where it can create those spaces for Black women to be vulnerable and not be pitted against each other and not be oppressed.
No, that's good. First of all,
wait, sis, right quick. The Victoria's question, I just not even that, what you just asked. You mentioned it earlier on about men pitting women against each other and why no one is really realizing. I also think that Black women, they haven't taken advantage of the alliance of another Black woman. So I found that Black men in ministry ultimately can be just as messy as other women, right? So they want to know all the tea. They want to know. They want you to update them on all the tea. They want all the background for knowledge. But then they're going to find a way to use that against both. You know what I mean? Like, instead of the Black woman saying, hey, I got a little leeway over here and I know you got a little pull over there. Why don't we come together and try to figure out how we can come up together? And I think that is the ignorance of almost that devotion to the Black man, even in the Black church we maintain, because then we fail to see them in all of their emptiness. Like, not every person, but there is an insecurity that is often found in Black male leadership in the church that relies their identity on the Black woman. If the Black woman would realize, okay, well, ultimately you ascribe to me, you want to be like me, you want to know what I know, then let me and all the rest of the Black women finally decide to rely on each other instead of relying on the safety of the Black man. You will see women running to the Black man, even in the church, instead of trying to run to their sisterhood or the cohort of sisters that should be safe. It's not always safe, but that should, yes, that whole concept right there, sister, like, I am not your enemy. Instead of going to pit against me with the man, collide with me so that we can then, excel together.
I done got excited, but I was gonna say that if anybody had anything to piggyback on, and that y'all are blessing my soul and my life today. And Kayla says you said something, and I would love for you to elaborate on that. About long suffering. It was something you said. Can you elaborate on that? Because that was good.
Sure. Okay, let me read it back. Can't find it. Anyway, I put in the comments that we have been taught to be long suffering without being properly taught of what that needs to look like. So yes, being long suffering is a scriptural principle. If you revere scripture as truth, that is a thing that you do subscribe to. But it can also be a point of manipulation. And so when I remember having a conversation with one of my brothers. He was a Black man and he's a wonderful teacher, but we were having a conversation about a woman who was in an abusive marriage. Her husband was physically abusing her and pretty much every day, and her children. And she stayed for years. And, of course, as a woman or as anybody of conscience, you're listening to that and you're going, get out, help yourself, help your children, not in a judgmental way, but in a way of, I want you to live. I want you to be okay. I want you to be safe. Get out. And what he was saying was, no, she's being long suffering. There is a place where long suffering can be expressed through, I continue to love you. I continue to pray for you. You continue to get my silent support if that's what's necessary, but I don't have to subvert myself. I don't have to compromise myself or put myself in a situation where I'm being manipulated or harmed in order to be loyal or in order to love you. And that's such a fine line to walk, because it is a scriptural principle, and you don't want to do things that are divisive. You don't want to do things that are rebellious, but at the same time, the Lord loves you. You know what I'm saying? He loves you, and he did call you. You do have a unique purpose. He wouldn't have you to be snuffed out under the hands of someone else. So that's what I mean when I'm saying it. I think we've been taught that principle of long suffering in a wrong way, in a manipulative way. Yes, it's a scriptural principle. If you revere scripture as truth, it is truth to you. But there has to be a wisdom that's connected to how you navigate being long suffering.
That's good. Go ahead, Mr. Tony. Go ahead.
Kayla, I'm about to follow you right now. Lord, when you talked about the long suffering being manipulated, it's usually geared towards Black women in the church, that we're supposed to be long suffering and in the context of marriage, right? And in elevation in ministry, right? So as a pastor's daughter growing up in ministry, I was told your time will come. Your time will come for you to be elevated in ministry. I'll license you, I'll ordain you, but your time will come, right? Be patient, be long suffering. And then, the sermons get preached. We got a generation, they want everything in the microwave, and we want everything fast, and all that rhetoric. And then the long suffering comes. We have a whole generation of Black women. My God, this thing makes me mad. A whole generation of Black women who have long suffered in waiting for their husbands, right? Or they have put up with abusive and toxic men in marriages, and they've gone to their pastor and said, I need help. And they were told, pray about it. Marriage is long suffering, but he's beating me across the head. No, sister, you got to love him. Long suffering. Well, I've been waiting on my husband that you told me will come and he's going to be perfect, and I've kept myself for 15 years. No, you just keep waiting.
Man, y'all preaching.
If Oh, go ahead. No. You
I just have a problem with that.
No, Miss Victoria, please have a whole problem. You have a right to have an attitude, a problem, an issue, everything.
I
Go ahead.
think I think too, if we bridge outside of the church, absolutely agree. Powerful statements already given. And I think about this, and Tashay and I actually talk about this often. So I'm my father's only daughter, right? And so some already can assume some of the love that comes along with it. I'll say it like that. But one thing that my father taught me earlier on was that I don't have to wait for the turnaround. Like if it's not immediate, if you cannot, and not to say that some things don't take time. That's not what I mean. But what I'll say to Shay and I talk about it often, it's in the context of a job, right? So if I feel disrespected or demeaned on a job, my father will be like, bye, tell him bye. And not to get into the habit of, and I never have been in the habit of just up and leaving a job, but it was the moral principle that you are worth enough of the respect that you demand, right? So if somebody, I remember very specifically, I was working in retail one time, I was the assistant manager, and the manager was another woman, but a white woman, racist, very annoyed at the fact that the company chose me. I was young, I was black, I was in school. And I remember it was pouring down raining one day, and she told me, hey, you need to go take out the trash. And I said, it's raining outside, and she was like, and still, immediately, because whatever in you that isn't humble enough, because I'm humble. I'm a humble person. If I am wrong, I will apologize. I will self-correct. I will make the proper adjustments if I am the one who needs to. But my father, in that idea that you don't have to stick around, wasn't even just for the church, because he is the same way. If you are at a church, you feel abused, you feel misused, get up out of there. And I think that the Black culture and the Black community has even sustained that idea that no, you need that job. So even if they're calling you out your name, and even if they're misusing you, stay and you go work for them white men. You go work for them white women. And I've even heard, other Black women say, well, you can't do that, in the workplace. You can't, and I have dreadlocks. So there was a long time that people would be like, oh, it's you got dreadlocks, you're not gonna get no job, or actually, I've had people assume a thing about me because I'm a plus size Black woman with locks. And then when I start speaking, to be like, oh, you actually sound very educated. Actually, you don't even know me. You know what I mean? And so I think that there has, even outside of the church, but even within the church, there has been this along the lines of long suffering, that we haven't tapped into the reality that we don't have to take it. We don't have to stay. We don't have to do it. We don't have to. And that isn't taught. That isn't encouraged. Even like girlfriends who know that they're friends. Like right now, everybody knows Tashay is my good girl. If Tashay was in a relationship and he was beating her brains out, if she ain't calling the police, I'm calling. Because I'm not even going to allow for my good girl, I'm not going to be coming and wiping your bruises and, oh sis, please just, get out. Just please. No, if there's something within my own means that I can do, I have the power to make those things be. So, you know what I mean? I just feel like even as it pertains to the long suffering, not only have we accepted it, we have perpetuated it. Girl, just go ahead. Just stick it out, girl. Just, when it should just be like, Tashay, sure, no.
Fats. T, sis, you got anything you want to say, sis? Because they've been going in, man, and I love it. I pray that all of you who are watching, pretty please share this, because it's needed. It's not for nothing. It's needed, because I want to say this, and I'm gonna go to my sister T for the final statement of the day, for the night. If you are a man, more specifically a Black man, and you feel as though this is a men bashing episode, I would ask you to go to the root of the problem of why you feel that way. Because you are being the example of what these ladies have just articulated of not being vulnerable. If they need to be in a space where they need to be heard, it is okay. And my God, please hear my heart on this. It is okay to say, I see and I hear you, Black woman. That's it. Not no, but y'all got an attitude. Y'all be doing this. Y'all be doing that. Like, stop it. Like, just stop. If you go through the history of time, we have always been there for you all. Good, bad, heaven, hell, or water. Okay? We have always been there. All we are asking in this setting and in this time is to hear what these ladies have just articulated and to see where you can do better, where you can be a safe haven for a Black woman. Because if we are not a part of the solution, these conversations are going to continue to happen and we're going to still be upset. Because whether if you prefer Snow White or not, when somebody get unjustly killed, it's the Black women that are in the front line all the time. Period. That's what I have to say. So T says, we kind of touch on it that it is a sense of sisterhood that is forming. And sometimes it can be false because you can be nice on the internet, but mean in real life, right? So in that sense, says what is the solution for, and this is the final statement, what is the solution for a Black woman to become vulnerable? Do we need to start at home within ourselves, and maybe other people will follow?
You would give me this. Yeah, okay. Um, I think that the first thing that we need to do is change our perception of vulnerability, right? We need to understand as women, because I believe that it starts with us, that vulnerability is not weakness, you know, it's not manipulation. In its proper context, right? And so when it's not all of the things, sorry, Victoria, you've been jacked. We're stealing all of the things. So when it's not all of the things negative, right? And it's all of the things positive, vulnerability is a beautiful thing, right? It's a good thing. We also need to understand so that it is not bruised who to be vulnerable with. That is very important. That's something that I had to learn. Everybody does not deserve your vulnerability. So vulnerability is not something that we just give to everyone, right? That is not just something that it is passed out like cookies. No, we need to understand who we are to be vulnerable with. We need to understand that vulnerability is not weakness. And we also need to understand that when we are vulnerable with someone that we have entrusted that sentiment with and they misuse it, we need to immediately remove ourselves. Immediately. No questions asked, no feelings, no ill feelings, not feeling away. We immediately remove ourselves from that situation, because at the end of the day, if that person cannot be trusted with our vulnerability, why should we continue to keep going there, with it? So I think that those are the two things. It should begin with us, right? Understanding and changing our perception of vulnerability, that it is not weakness. It is not something that is negative. It is positive. And then we need to also understand that who we are vulnerable with matters, right? And
That's
then
good.
I think that when our vulnerability is misused or followed or not handled properly, we need to remove ourselves from that situation immediately. And that is
Yes.
my final.
That's good, sis. Miss Victoria, same thing. What is the solution? What is one of the solutions, I should say, because it's a lot. But what is one of the solutions we can do moving forward to create that space for Black women to be vulnerable?
Continue having forums like this, where we are unapologetic in requesting, demanding, and letting everyone know, like, hey, moving forward, this is how you are to conduct and respond to me. one of the things I would say and piggyback on what Tasha say is I believe that is so, so, so important. And she said it, that you are very protective of your vulnerability. Your vulnerability in the way I think about it is your essence. It's your soul, it's your mind, your thoughts, your will, and emotions. And it is something that is to be it's sacred almost, because when I come to you and tell you I am broken and you do not have the tools to respond to let me know that I am heard, as well as provide me with a solution to my brokenness, whether the solution is prayer, hopefully that is the first go to, or the solution is, sis, I know a great therapist. Sis, I want to be accountable to you while you walk through this. Then it's all for nothing. And so what that does is that then creates a person to then feel as though they have given of themselves with nothing in return. Another thing is, don't always be in vulnerability conversations. And this is my last thing. Be the person who dumps and you don't return the favor. So vulnerability is also reciprocal. I just believe that. Like if I am open with you, and I think this is where, thank you, Holy Spirit. I think this is where the problem is. I think Black women, especially our generation, we're going to therapy. We're being more in tune with our emotions and being able to articulate them. But I think the frustration has been that we are not getting that reciprocal relationship with another Black woman in the vulnerability piece. It's very one-sided. And then that creates a lot of what is the word? What is that word? Resent. You know what I'm saying? And so that causes the walls to come back up. So just remember that vulnerability is sacred. Be careful who you share and are vulnerable with, and then remember that vulnerability is reciprocal. So if that person is never willing to be vulnerable with you, you stop telling them your business.
That's good.
Yeah.
Charity says, and then Kayla, I'm gonna end it off with you, sis. But Charity says, same thing, sis, because you already know, mute yourself. We be trying to get to the solutions, okay? So what is one of the solutions, sis, that we can do to create that space for Black women to be vulnerable?
Like the pen of good Sister Maya, um, understand that you are the gift that your ancestors gave. You are the dream and the hope of the slave. And in all of that, I think that if the Black woman chooses to rise above the oppression, chooses to rise above suppression, chooses to rise above even communal, and I'm saying as far as the Black community, the church community, and realize I am she, I am it, I am her. I can do, I can be, I can live, I can soar, I can flourish with or without. And I think that the solution starts there. A lot of it, like I said, I do in no way blame Black women, but what I do seek to do is empower Black women enough to realize that if the Black man never comes along, that if the Black sister never comes along, guess what? You still are that girl. You still have the power to do and to be. And so I think that, I was in a forum one day, and this is quick, and a poet said, the prey, if the bait changes the standard of the prey will change its appetite. Don't, and I think that that is ultimately what I mean. Black women rise up, be who you are, demand the standard. And when it's not accepted, when it's not appreciated, when it's not reciprocated, so long, bye bye. And eventually, I'm saying, because the world can't exist without the Black woman. So you know what it will be forced to do? Come up. It will be forced to come up. The Black church will be forced to come up. And so ultimately, I just, offer Black woman rise and be and do all of the things, right? be all the things. Yes.
That's good, sis. Kayla, take us out, sis. Same thing. What is one of the solutions that we can do as Black women to create that space to be vulnerable?
Awesome. I have two things to share. I echo what every woman on this call, this panel has said. Please be choosy with where you are vulnerable. For me, I am one of those people that was born with a huge capacity to love, to share, to receive love, to nurture. I am very much that person. The dual side of that is you're very sensitive. And so for me, what I have run into is I started off in a place where a lot of people work their whole life to get to in terms of vulnerability and an ability to share and receive, but choosing the wrong people, not having a discerning way that I navigate how I share and not being choosy has caused me to sort of limit how I share now. It's caused me to kind of, and I don't mean that in a positive way, I do mean that in a negative way. It's kind of caused me to close off a bit. And so, yes, if I had have had that knowledge to be choosy with who I'm vulnerable with, make sure that when you're sharing with people, they're in a place to hear you and respond. Make sure that the people that you're sharing with are not judgmental and that they love you and that they're going to offer you love in response to whatever it is you're sharing. So yeah, be choosy with how and when you're vulnerable. The second thing I'll share, I'm going to read something very quickly. These are not my words. These are from Ashley Nguyen. I hope I said her name right. And I posted this on my birthday this weekend. I'm planning to navigate this way, hopefully forever, but at least for year 28. So it says, honor the divine feminine principles of receiving, relaxing, practicing stillness, inner strength, gratitude, and creativity. Celebrate the magic in the curves of your body. Let go of constant motion and recognize unhealthy independence that leads to never-ending cycles of burnout. I got it shifts to help me. I'm fine has shifted to hear me out. So from that, I take that piece about unhealthy independence. Yes, we are strong. Yes, Black women are resilient, but understanding hopefully within a godly wisdom. For me, it would be within a godly wisdom, but applying wisdom at all, a structure at all to how you set a standard for yourself of, I have to do this alone, but this I can share. Or I need to keep this to myself and deal with this in an intimate place with the Lord or an intimate place with my sister, but this I can share. This, in this regard, I can receive help. And not seeing ourselves as the camel that has to carry all the bags. Yeah, that's my things.
Oh, blessed Jesus. Yes, Miss Victoria, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, my Lord, that really blessed me. That blessed me.
No, that's good. I'm happy that I listened to the Holy Ghost because it's like, hey, make sure she lead off with the end. I was like, I didn't know he was gonna do the benediction like that, but hey, I'm happy. But no, I really do pray that you guys follow all of my queens on here, all of my sisters. You know, like I always say, they the best version of myself, and so. As always, I always want to give a shout out. So for those that are watching, please stay on and listen to what they got going on, because this is a movement. I do believe in collaboration, and I do believe in supporting one another. So Kayla, let the folks know how they can follow you and anything you got going on.
Okay, last time I wasn't expecting it and I said the wrong Instagram. So today I'm gonna be right. Feel free to follow me at Kayla_Brittany_Cox. I'm very boring. Or follow me on Facebook, literally the same. My name is Kayla Brittany Cox.
Miss Victoria, let the folks know how they can follow you and what you got going on.
All right. So you can follow me on Facebook and on Instagram at the Victoria Hicks brand, as well as on YouTube. And I am about to launch a plus size boutique very soon. So you can also find me on Instagram at the Victoria Hicks Brand Boutique. So I would love to have you join my world and become a brand ambassador.
Did I? But sis, did you mention your show, your talk
I
show?
did not, and I always leave that out.
Okay.
I'm also I also am a curator of the Where Do I Fit In talk show, where we come on Monday nights to talk about various issues, especially intersectionality, the good, bad, and ugly of being Black and woman in America. And if you follow me on Facebook or on, I should send you to YouTube. If you go on YouTube and go to the Victoria Hicks brand, you will see all of our shows that we broadcast, and they are absolutely phenomenal, especially last night when we talked about bouncing back from heartbreak. If you've ever experienced a heartbreak in your life, and you need to figure out how to bounce back, you definitely want to watch last night's episode. So thanks again for this invitation. I'm so excited to meet with all of you all. Kayla for President 2024.
Big facts. Let me do y'all see how a sister reminded another sister of the greatness that she has? So that's what you call love. And one thing one of my mentors says that you can compliment when you're confident. So that is something that I love. T, big sister, let the folks know how they can follow you and what you got going on.
Okay, well, as it says, wait, okay, right there. As it says, on Facebook, you can follow me at Tashay Woods. On Instagram, I stole the slogan from our good sister elder, Shirley Chisholm. It is unbought underscore in underscore unbossed on Instagram. Unbought and unbossed. Can I plug my daughter? Is that okay? Can I plug her business?
Yeah,
Is
go
that
ahead,
okay?
sis. Come on now.
Well, my daughter, actually she'll be 14 next month. Is the owner and creator of Ariane's Expressions, and it's Arm Candy. She makes jewelry bracelets, really nice. So go follow my baby on Instagram. The Instagram is Arm Candy by AX. Okay, and so go follow my baby, go buy something, support my baby. She is a young Black entrepreneur and she's getting it, and her work is amazing. And I'm not saying that just because I'm biased. Her stuff really is really cute. Okay, so go follow my baby.
Yes, that's what you call a great mother. All right. Charity, Doc, Goat. Let them know, sis, how they can follow you.
I'm everywhere at Charity Danielle, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Um, Literally, CharityDanielle.com houses everything from professional to social to music to podcasts. Everything everywhere is Charity Danielle.
Please listen to my sister podcast and all that good stuff. Please, please, please. And listen, you guys, so far we have like $140 that people have donated. So look, if y'all can donate to the Cash App sign, unmute YS. We want to do things this year, especially like give back to children and Christmas. And you know what? Salvation is free, but hey, ministry costs. Okay, so if it's $1 or 50 cents, please donate to your girl over here. I'm telling you, it's really much appreciated. And we love you. And as always, we always pray it out. Charity says, can you pray us out?
Sure, God, in the divine majesty and all of your queendom, we honor you. We appreciate you for being the epitome of the Black woman, the essence of the Black woman, the reverence and the honor of the Black woman. So now give us the confidence to go out and to be ambassadors for the Black woman, not even in a self-serving or self-seeking manner, but in realizing that when we honor Black women, we honor you. That when we reverence Black women, that we reverence you. And so we appreciate you for this platform. Thank you for the courage that Dario has to create a space where we are able to testify and unite with other beautiful, confident Black women, but all still pointing back to the sovereignty and the glory of your name. So we, again, thank you. We're appreciative. We love you more than anything. thank you for everything that is the Black woman. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And like I always say, y'all, stay positive, but test negative. All right.